Hello, my name is Alckemy. Welcome to the channel. Today, you and I are going to be cooking up some beats with a 2-hour challenge. So I'm going to do everything from scratch. I'm going to try to get an idea going as quickly as possible, and I'm going to do all the sound design and stuff. And of course, I'm going to be giving like an abridged version of that. But here's what this is going to sound like. I don't know what this is actually going to sound like as of now because I don't know what's going to come out, but I figured, hey, it would be cool to at least do the process and see what comes out from the other side. So we're going to get a beat going, and let's get cooking. And for the things that I like to show you, yeah, before I even got the idea for this video, I was low key stressing really bad because I was like, man, I got to make a banger every single video and just cook. But I figured that maybe there's some merit in having a good time and showing the process. So even if today sucks, I don't know. If it's absolutely terrible, then I won't upload this video. But if it's worth listening to at all whatsoever, then we'll see what happens. And if you're watching this, then, well, that means that we got something cool. So let's go ahead and jump into the doll. All right, so I've got nothing, and there is a 2-hour timer. And so what we're gonna do is set this timer. I'm gonna be going fast like Sonic, and hopefully cooking up something that is worthwhile. Are you guys ready? All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, do it. Okay, so we need drums. Let's go ahead and speed run that. I'm gonna grab life. I've got some new tricks that I'm going to be kind of glossing over that I can't talk about quite yet, but is going to be really fun. I'll probably do something for the master classes, but we just need something on here. It doesn't really even matter. Cool. So let's go ahead and hit play. Okay, cool. We've got lots of stuff that sounds like stick hits. We've got a couple of things that sound like kicks, and I don't need anything else after that, so I'm just going to delete that for now. But what I will do is I'm going to pull out what we just recorded, all the things that we just recorded, and I'm going to seek out some stuff that might sound kind of reminiscent to some fundamentals. And we can do fundamentals from scratch where we just synthesize everything, but I tend to favor enjoying like making kicks and snares out of like really weird stuff. So let's find that kick. I think it's here. This will be perfect. And what we'll do is we will start just by making this hella fast. And so I'm going to be introducing a brand new trick, which is the resonator bank, in order to give this some low end kick goodness. So I'm going to put this around D sharp, because I think that's what we're going to cook in today. And I'm going to grab this audio follower and bump this. And so now if I play this without it, it's going to sound like this. And now what I'm going to do is bump it. We can also do this with some other stuff too, but I find that using the resonator bank gives us some really cool places to start, because now we actually have something that makes it feel like it's a little bit more of a kick. And that's really freaking cool. Cool. So I also want a transient on here to some extent. So I'm actually going to cut all this out and move this to the biggest part. And the reason why is because I believe that if I do this correctly, then we've got more information here to actually create a pitch bend, which should give us something. All right, now let's continue. I grab that resonator bank, move this down a little bit more. See if we can save this because it's not sounding great. We saved it. Sounds much better. Cool. That only took us 6 minutes. So not too bad. I try to give myself like 5 minutes to work on a drum or something because at a certain point it just stops becoming worth it. And so if you find yourself getting into something to where you feel like it's not working out, sometimes like just go find a kick or something like that or try something else, but don't spend 20 minutes trying to force it to work because sometimes it just doesn't work for me. So with that, let's go ahead and that sounds pretty good. And we can shape this further if we want to, but I think that that's a good starting point because at the end of the day, it's not really that important. But let's go ahead and find a stick hit now. Okay, so we're going to work with this, which is pretty nice. So that already has a really nice transient in it. Something that we can do just to give it a little bit more is we can grab a replacer. And I'm going to add a polymer here. And we can set this up like this. And I find that the AD is a really fast way to, because if we solo this, I mean, if we wanted to, we could also do something like segments and give ourselves like a really high pitch bend, but this might be overkill and might not even be worth our time, to be honest. And that's kind of my big thing as of late, is just trying not to waste time. But this is great because we can distort the crap out of this if we wanted to. And now look at that transient that we've created, which is nice. So we can also do the same thing here if we wanted to create a fundamental. So we can do something that's at like, oh, that sounds really good. So I'm going to turn this down and make it really fast. Sweet. Let's grab Saturn 2. Guess we're going for a stick hit today, which is totally fine. We can grab some fuse compressor. Newfangled saturate. There's a couple of things that we can do to make this more lively, because it already sounds okay. But what I'm going to go for is some convolution reverb. And let's go for studio room. Okay, let me see what these two are hidden at. Cool. So we've got a lot more to play with on this. So what I'm going to do is just grab a filter plus. And we can EQ this out. And another thing that we can do too is we can use the EQ to color it. And something else that could be fun is I'm going to back off of the plate just a bit. You can actually distort this. Make it more noisy. Maybe with like howl. And high pass this so that way turn this down. Sweet. So let's take this. And we'll take these sounds and we'll create some kind of groove out of this. So we just created a super fast rhythm. We're gonna use a frequency shifter to try to make it a little bit different than... Okay, so if you start getting stuff that's super tonal like that, kind of like this, then you might want to find where that fundamental is and just take that out. And now that we have that, we can also use like a fuse compressor or something to bring it back up. So now this unfortunately is creating lots of lots of clicking. So I'm going to try to get rid of all of that by doing this. I'm going to select everything here and just cut the tails off because that's going to get annoying. Dope. Let's grab our kick. Let's grab our little snare. And we can pull that out to where we've got both of these now. And something that we might as well do since we have that is just grab a couple more. If at all in here. Like that one's kind of cool, so we can toss that in there, see what that sounds like. Which is another stick hit, so that sounds pretty good. So that's kind of nice. Maybe something we can do is create a clap. It's kind of a metallic sound, so that might be cool as well. Let's see what that sounds like. It's a bit much. It's kind of cool. I don't know if it's useful or not, but it's something. And so because of that, we can kind of take all this now, post that right here, and we can kind of just lay this down. And what I'm going to do is make this just a little bit faster from here because I want it to roll into the next one because I like the way that that's doing that. And so now maybe we can even do one right here, see what that's like. Sick. So we're going to toss these in our fundamentals now. And then we'll toss this little guy into our sidechain. And so now we should have something that's like all right, now we can get onto the base. So we've got plenty of time, pretty much an hour and a half to work with something. So what I'm going to do is probably just grab phase plant. And let's go ahead and just come up with something and see if we can get some cool movement going. You know, we could do something like that, but what what I might do is I might focus just on just timbre for now and movement, and then I can always downgrade it and go back. So what I want to make sure is that our fundamental looks good. So I'm going to start adding some filtering here. We're going to make this fairly easy. Just get some boosties, kind of like so. Some reduces, some boosties and reduces, kind of like so. And then we will grab probably just a single shape for now. Something kind of like that. And then we can grab a filter, do the same thing, leave this in opposition. So make that come up. And then as you can already tell, like we're already getting vocal stuff that, well, is kind of cool. So let's go ahead and duplicate this. And then what I'll do is move this up. Maybe move this down. And to keep this relatively simple, I'm going to add an instance of multipass here and just do some coloring to the middle. Let's do a really short dual delay. And let's go random. Make that jump around. The reason why I'm doing this with the dual delay is because if you do it with a singular delay, it jumps in pitch whenever this moves, but if you do it with a dual delay, then it'll stay consistent. Let's grab a flanger. I'm going to apply a small amount of overdrive to this, but I'm really not trying to boost this anymore. In fact, what I'm most likely going to aim for is trying to get this to be level and relatively even, so it's a full frequency sound. Cool. So now that we have that, for some reason, multipass is not playing nice with Bitwig. It's from the beta or whatever, but so that sounds pretty cool. It's a little bit hollow though. I'm going to try to mask everything behind the chorus. Maybe we can even do another instance of filtering. And I think what I want to do for this is just, yeah, we'll just go random. It doesn't matter. And then we can also grab a ring mod, low pass noise. Cool. So now we're going to set this to be a little bit faster. Then we can grab a random here, make this move. Kind of slow, because otherwise the movement is way too quick, but we can set it to jitter. Whoa, it's thundering outside, which is cool. All right, cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to probably go a little bit more ham with this and try to make this a little bit cooler. So I will color this again with some more movement here and probably end up compressing it or something. But good Lord, this is having a hard time with multipass. But what's cool about this that we can use this for is getting different phrases that are within key for one. So that's the primary goal. And then we can do a separate chain or something to where we just totally break the sound, which I think could be pretty fun. But I'm going to use the final neuro chain. And so I'm going to do something that I haven't tried in a really long time, but what I'm going to set is an octave here. So from just a 2-bar thing. And while this is playing, that's 3 bars. That's fine. But while this is playing, I'm going to start doing stuff. And I think that while I'm working on this, it'll be cool to kind of just start messing around and having fun and pretty much taking like a modular jam approach to this, because that's kind of the goal anyways, right? So let's go ahead and record some stuff. Sick. So we've got a lot of movement in here, and even though it's all within the same key, the cool thing about this is that it's something that we can utilize later for tossing into a sampler and trying to find some cool moments, but it's just movement, and that's kind of the main deal. But now what we're going to do is take all of this, and we're going to move this over here, but I'm going to start breaking this with lots of different stuff and just doing like weird pitching and all that. And so what we can do is create a difference between having stuff that has predictable movement, and then we can have another thing that has just like weird fills and all that stuff, which I think would be pretty cool. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start adding some other movement to this with wavetables and all that. And I think that this could be cool because the movement is where we get our fills. So by having something like this to where we can do something kind of like this. Will give us some cool results. So let's go ahead and set that up quickly. And I'm going to set this to sync. Set that to 4. Go random. Now something else that we can do, because I'm not really married to the pitch, is we can grab another randomizer but send that into a remap. And send this to plus 24. And set this to minor. Just regular minor. We could do Phrygian. That would be cool because we're just playing with octaves. And so now because of that, we set the remap here. And so now this is going to give us different. So if we go back to this now, So one thing that was really cool about that, I kind of want to make sure that I got that because we got some really cool like pitching things over here, and we can place that in this because like as soon as something jumps out to you that's cool, it's kind of difficult because I'm doing things by hand and then I'm also going to be doing things like randomized or whatever. But if you can kind of get yourself into this situation to where you are doing some stuff by hand and then letting the synthesizer kind of take care of everything else, then essentially what we're going for is a modular jam. And so even though I think that it's really cool and really important to, you know, make sure that you have some stuff that preserves the low end and the low fundamental, I also think that it's really important to just like break stuff sometimes, and I'm trying to be better about that. So as opposed to just going for what always works. That being said, let's go ahead and just mess around a bit and see what we can get. I'm gonna kind of just keep messing with this until I get something that I like. Also, very quickly, some other thing that I'm going to do that is really important is instead of using a cut like this, I'm going to instead use a shelf. Because when you use shelves, if you turn down the mix on these, then it'll actually turn itself off. So this is the easiest way that I actually know how to create like a bandpass within Faceplant that has a mix on it, other than throwing it in a snap heap or a multipass. It's not like a true cut or whatever, but because you're actually doing slopes, there's no possible solution to making this any easier. So I'd recommend doing it this way. Okay, so that had some really cool stuff in it as well. So let's go ahead and do a quick pause break and toss that in there, and then we can continue. Okay, so I found some other cool stuff that I thought was really interesting, so we'll take that. And not really trying to be in too much of a rush on this, but just kind of letting myself unfold things and have fun with putting them in here. It can be kind of fun. So one thing that I am going to do though is try to be a little bit more reserved on this part, just because I'm noticing that it's kind of killing everything. Don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of distortion, but the thing with it is that if you are trying to make something that is also somewhat functional or whatever, at a certain point you kind of have to be like, all right, let's back off, because the idea is to make everything kind of seem like it's part of the same family, which none of this is going to do that. This is all going to just totally destroy the signal. But if we can find something that's just a little less insane, maybe curve morph, that could be good. Shout out Data Broth, that looks like that's his wavetable. Cool, so there's some pretty sick stuff in that. At a certain point, we're gonna have enough, but this is only stuff that I've done with phase plant effects. But there's a lot more that you can do, especially like getting into, well, tons of other things. But for the sake of trying to continue, I think what I'm gonna do now is turn most of this off, just in case. So we can actually do this and do that as well, and even do that. And then now what we can do is, instead of having all these crazy randoms and stuff going on, we can turn most of this stuff off, except for this. Actually, yeah, we can turn all this off. And what I'm going to focus on now is just building up a nice sounding low end bass. And so I'm going to go into something like that. We'll go multipass. Let's create a 2-band. Let's go Haas effect on this one. We can do a really short amount of reverb. Set the early up, set the dampen up, and turn the size down. We can grab an audio follower, turn this down. And now what's cool about this is we can just use a shaper table to start making some really cool something else that we might want to consider is we can high pass this and then have another just pure sine wave under here. I'm gonna grab a slice EQ and make sure that this is, yeah, so I wanted to make sure that the fundamental is the biggest here. Now we can also do some other stuff to where we have some fun with like the envelope. So that's not really making a difference because of how loud that is, but that's pretty funny. Cool, so now I actually have an hour to create some stuff, but the first thing that I'm going to do is cut all of this stuff out for the sake of trying to make this a little bit easier. Sometimes spaces are good, but we're not really going to have a lot to play with because we're only going to have a certain amount of values that we start plugging into this as soon as we toss this into the sampler. And so some things that we can do is we could toss all of this back into a granular synth and start, you know, messing it up even more. But I think that I'm going to use this just to get an initial idea and start to try to come up with something that is going to make a little bit more sense. So yeah, I'm just cutting the big tails off because I'm going to consolidate all of these together. And it doesn't need to be perfect, but just the big stuff, kind of like so. So that way we've got kind of like a single chunk of things, kind of like that. And we're gonna click on this and go Command J, consolidate. And now let's grab this and toss that into a sampler. And then we'll do the same thing here to where we can toss this into a sampler. And that'll take a minute, but we did it. And so now we've got two different things that we can utilize in order to kind of create stuff from. And that's great because we've got a lot of material to work with. So what I'm going to do now is start pitting this up and going for, I guess, maybe a trial and error approach just to see if I can get something to work with each other. And my hopes aren't high for this because this is where a lot of times where I end up like falling short. But at the same time, if I can just get a riff going or something, then we have a means to build off of. And the big thing with me is that I'm going to commit to this. I'll say it again, I'm going to commit to it. And so if I can find even just a rhythm, then I'll have something to play off of. And we've got all the tools that we need in order to find something, because we've got a good bass. We've got tons of stuff here to work with, and all I have to do is just be creative enough in the moment to cook something up. So I am going to put this here and set this to D sharp, or D sharp, E flat. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn expressions on, and I am actually going to not change the offset to this. I am going to just manipulate the playhead to something and see if I can find something interesting. And what I like about doing it, like, because I used to do this with velocity, but I was like, yo, that's kind of redundant. Why don't I just look at this and like change the playhead? So let's go ahead and put something down and try to think about or try to audiate something that is going to make sense. Also, this needs to be here, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so. So far, so good. What's cool about this is we can actually change the pitch of this and find something different now. So, and then we can create an automation lane here with this guy and just kind of fish. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this go right here because I feel like it's jumping. Cool. So now what we can do is start to play around with different spacing and stuff like this. So and I can start to play around with different shit, kind of like so, and just try to find some other stuff. So as you can see, what I'm just going for now is like just having fun jamming over this, because it's kind of cool to So as you can see now, I'm just kind of jamming over this and allowing myself to be creative and find different stuff. And sometimes this is kind of refreshing because I don't have to like go for anything specific. I can kind of just play around with getting things to kind of, I don't know, see if we can mesh with it or something of the sort. But once I have something to work with, then what I can do is get into the resampling. Then I can elaborate on some of the other vibes and whatnot. But the goal of this is to try not to do super complicated stuff. I'm really just trying to like, how do I even say this? I'm really just trying to use less elements in order to get something interesting. So So what I find to be interesting about this too is that with this, with these drums, I think that it's important to give some kind of high end for contrast because this is all kind of in the middle, if that makes sense. And so what I'm going to do for one is I'm going to move these over just a little bit because the snare was a little bit late. And if anything, I would want them to be a little bit early. So one thing that I might do is just grab a time shift and move this a little bit forward. What I can also do is now we can make it a little bit more simple. So So one thing about this, which is kind of cool but also kind of sucks, is that the sampler is kind of low-key broken. Um, I'm having fun with this, so I don't really care. But keeping in mind that like I'm getting different stuff every time this automation happens is kind of an issue, um, or will be an issue at some point. But it's not the end of the world. But just being mindful of that is kind of a good thing to keep in mind. So that's actually kind of sick. And so what we can do now is we can duplicate this. And I think that what I'm going to do is, that's a really solid hit. I can start to mess around with different stuff here. For one, like different pitches and things, and try to create like a cool little fill rhythm or something. But every time it's different. And maybe that's just because of where this is picking up. But just be mindful that it's going to be kind of strange. But the big thing is that I'm having a great time doing this. And so maybe something that we can do is do a cool little change up. So we can make like a longer phrase right here. Okay, so right here, I just heard something, and this is also a really important thing. So I just heard something, and this is also a really important piece of this, is I heard this little thing right here that had that, and I want to keep that because of how cool it was. So sometimes you might catch something, and that's why a rolling sampler can be so helpful. But if we listen to this, it's, yeah. So that little thing, we can use that as like an effect here. So if I set that here and go like that, we've got a laser effect. Maybe we can I don't really know what key that is, but let's figure that out. So that's in C sharp 5. And so what I'm going to do is just pitch this up by 2. And then we can probably just take that out because that should be closer to D sharp. And so we can take that part out, and then now we've created like a cool little fill. So and now we can kind of keep messing with this. And okay, that's kind of sick. So maybe we can cool. So now what we can do is duplicate this, and we can start to think about adding to both of these. So maybe what I might do very quickly, I still have an hour left. We're doing great. Yeah, doing everything from scratch within an hour is awesome. So because of this though, I can take the isolated parts of this, and now what I'm going to do is just have some more fun with this by throwing this through a clipper for one. We're already hard clipping this because of the outside, but sometimes just extra saturation is cool. And what I'm going to do now is mess around with things like cluster delay. We can do infiltrator, we can do beam, but I'm really keen on infilter, whatever that means. Really keen on like just doing some stuff that could be fun. And so can I copy this? Edit. So copy. And then what would be nice is if I could just go paste, paste, paste. I guess it doesn't matter, but what I'm going to do is like not really care, I guess. And I'm just going to throw stuff on here. Go edit, paste. We're going to use all the effects. And then if it gets too crazy, I'll back off of it. But maybe with this one, I'll keep it relatively low because this guy can be kind of insane. No, whatever. Random. Cool. Actually, yeah, why not? We'll just do that. That could be sick. Vocoder, maybe vary speed. Do something relatively on the low end. And set that to like 2 bars. So now what I'll do is I'll edit this as a sequence and set all of this like this. Actually, no, I don't need to do that. I will just grab this guy and go like this a couple of times. And now that we have some stuff playing through here, we're going to be getting some different kinds of sounds, which hopefully should be cool. One other thing that I'm going to do is turn off the sidechain because that is a really important deal to... Okay, so I just messed that up because I didn't realize that I was talking. Crap. So to recapture what's going on, now that we have something that we can work with, I'm going to make variations by resampling again. I'm really trying to get in the habit of, if anything seems cool, start to resample, get more stuff out of it, and just keep going and keep putting love into the tracks. But since we've got pretty much an hour left, I'm feeling pretty comfortable now to kind of just keep going and keep adding to it for fun, because I don't really care anymore. I'm just having a good time. But with this, I've added infiltrator and I've started to randomize all the envelopes, and then I've made a sequence that is going to pretty much just randomize this stuff into different placements. And then we can kind of keep hitting this shuffle button as many times as we want to. I wish that this was kind of like life. I wish that this was something that we could use as a macro tool or a macro button, but that's okay because we can do it manually. But I've also got a cluster delay on here, So we can start to play with different pitching and stuff. And then what I'll also do is grab an instance of beam. These are like my top favorite manglers. These three respectively, outside of like snap heap and stuff, of course. But yeah, doing stuff with this can be really, really cool sometimes. So I think what I'm going to do is make sure that you guys hit the subscribe button. But let's go into something like Dreamscape, and I'll just play with the mix on a randomizer and have some fun with breaking things. Random. Yeah. So I'll hit mix, space A mix, set that here, and go half note, and just start wrecking some stuff and again recording it out. Sick. So we got some really cool stuff out of that. And so now what I'm going to do is create a new chain here. And this is going to be like a pain in the butt to mix most likely, but we don't care. But having something like this now, we can utilize a lot of this stuff for cool little fills and whatnot. And notice that I kind of went a little bit lighter on not necessarily the effects, but on how long I have for duration. And I think that this is a really, really important point. You want to make sure to like not overdo it, because a lot of times you can become desensitized to the sounds that you're trying to like get out, or like, you know, being attracted to cool sounds or whatever. And so even though we've done a lot of sound design, like, yeah, it's only taken me an hour and 15 minutes, but you know what I mean? After so long, especially if you're like doing this for like 4 hours, just trying to get a track going, it could be a lot. And so just be mindful of that, but also be resourceful, because a lot of the stuff that we have in here, because it's got verbs and delays and space, like we can kind of try to implement this in a way that will give us some creative output, both for intros and also spicing up our main section. So let me see here. There was one cool thing that I thought was sick. Not that. Jesus. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and delete that. Now, is this still on? No. So we can do something kind of cool like this, to where we go. And this is something that we can utilize just as like an emphasis here, with just maybe like a little bit of delay or something. So maybe we can use that cluster delay and just find something. Metallic echoes, moon gazing. I don't know what that's going to sound like, but You know, it provides a little bit of background stuff, so, which is kind of sick, but there was some other stuff that I heard in here that I was like, that's really cool. Ouch. So it seems to me like this captured the drums and stuff too, which sucks. But it's okay because we have this set up, we can do it again. So I don't know why that happened, but let's go ahead and just quickly kind of redo that and see if we can get some other stuff going. Make sure that the sidechain is off. Even stuff like that is pretty cool. So kind of turn that off, and there's some other stuff in here. Hopefully this didn't capture the drums, but we'll see if that's a bug. We're on beta 11, unless if I was just stupid, but yeah, so this is taking the drums as well, so that's really frustrating. So what I'm going to do is move this over here, because this is ignoring, that's frustrating. This is ignoring the fact that I'm soloing the drums and taking everything, and that is a Bitwig bug that drives me crazy. But let's just take this and then do it one more time. So that was really cool, that little doo-doo-doo. That's kind of cool. So something with this is something that we can actually create a B section out of, because there's lots of interesting things to kind of throw at us. So what I'm going to do is go back here and turn that off. Turn that off. Let's turn the sidechain back on. And then we can kind of just, you know what I mean, start fitting some of this stuff in here. So, for example, we can kind of toss this right here, which is a nice little fill, and get rid of this. And this is like just one way that we can try to get variation, I guess. So. So now we can do that same fill effect, but change it right here. So, and then we can find something to kind of switch that up. So, yeah. Which I think this would also be another really sick sound to do as a switch up. So we'll do something like this to where it'll pick up kind of like this. So we can go. And slowly we can start to introduce that with like a filter or something. And then what I can do is grab a filter like this and slowly start to pull that in. I don't know why I chose Pro Q. That's probably not the best choice for this, but that's all right. Yeah, so we can kind of drag this over and switch this up right here. So I can just take this. So and then what I think I'm going to do is grab something like this and cool. So yeah. And then what we can do is come back to that phase plant thing. So So we can go like, you know, just something like that, that we can kind of go into the next thing. But now that we have that, let's go back and focus on this for a bit. But yeah, we can, my idea is to maybe switch up the snare or something right there to kind of switch that up, but just as a starting point. Okay, so now let's make some spaces. So I'm going to take that because that's a much cooler sound, and just remove the snare. And then we can kind of just move this around and switch it up. So now we actually have something that sounds like a riff, and there is a matter of cohesion because we started from a single phrase and built off of that. And that's why I think it's so important to do that at the beginning, to just like have one bar, because now what I'm hearing is do, 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 right? So that's our phrase. So So maybe we can go. Maybe we can find something else there that will be kind of sick. So what happens if we take this and then just do like a crazy pitch bend or something? So Yeah, cool. So now we just need more stuff. Okay, cool. So now we just need more stuff. But we got something going, and that's pretty cool. And I think that is the hardest part to even just get to this point. So now what I'm going to try to tackle is getting into just like some beat resampling. And what I think I can even do, to be honest with you, is just take this. So let's copy that and then throw that on the drums now. And so I'll just mute this and grab the drums, and hopefully this will give us the option to not be the resampling problem. So let's see what happens. Yeah, this looks like this is going to work. Okay. Okay, so hold up. That was sick. There's a bunch of stuff in there that we can use as both percussion and like little effects and whatnot, and I'm very pleased with that. So what I'm gonna do is try to take some of this stuff and isolate it, and then I'll most likely try to put some other things in there to try to make it, obviously, like we need more high end and stuff, because right now it's just bass and like a very low rim shot that doesn't sound great with this, and I'm keeping that in mind, but I'm trying not to let that get in the way. So as soon as like we pick up the energy by changing the snare or layering it or something, I think that this track is going to come alive. But let's go ahead and listen through some of this stuff and see if we can find some things that sounded cool. So that could be one thing that we might try within this. So what we can do is just make a new layer for this and see what happens if we put this up. So maybe we can put it on this one and kind of do something like this. So yeah, to me, this is speaking. That's kind of cool, and we can leave it for now, but what I'm thinking is that this needs some high contrast with, it needs more contrast with what is happening, and so I might end up doing a clap or something, but let's keep going. There was a particular sound in here that I thought was really sick. I guess it was this. So let's come back into here and then see if we can fit that in somewhere. Like right there. And take out all the high end and stuff and just try to make it nice and open. What pitch is that? So I guess that's technically, no, it's not. So it's not in scale. So let's at least move that Maybe it would be cool to turn this into a fifth. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait, no. Undo, undo, undo. 1, 2. Yeah. I had it right. I'm tripping. So we can turn that down by quite a bit. Maybe add a ROM to it or something. Paint by numbers! What the hell are you doing? Okay. So little small things like that can sometimes be cool. So so that's some cool stuff. And then now what we can do is maybe try to create and elaborate on the percussive line. And usually I do the percussive line first, but I don't know, I'm just trying to do stuff different. So what we might be able to do is actually use this for something. And let me go to repitch and pitch this up and see what that does. Duplicate. Maybe just see what that does. So something here that we can also do is maybe add some physicality to it, because this is kind of like supposed to be a hat, whatever this is. And by throwing in another hi-hat, we can actually utilize this to technically become a hat. Which is nice, because that actually sounds almost like a tambourine. which I like that rhythm a lot better. But the cool thing about that is that now we have a little bit more space, and so something that we can do with this is we can also add in some high end as well to try to give it some, just some character. So maybe what we can do is add in a ring mod or something. So some things that we can do here as well is kind of hit Command B and do some reversing to where we give off on some of that stuff. And we don't want the drums on that. So what I might try to do here is just add a really high distortion, high pass thing right here. Because this might give us that clap feel. It's not bad. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a replacer on the fundamental, because what we can do with this is push this later, but we can create a clap with this that can also be like super distorted or separate if we want, that we can mix in and not actually have to add tracks. So if we take a listen to this, it's not very loud to be honest, but if we add maybe some distortion or something, then we might be able to, which is pretty cool. And now because of that, we can actually grab another time shift like this and try to create something of the sort that can give us that. But if I set the duration to be longer, then we might be able to get like a So what I'm going to do to kind of balance this is throw in an EQ. Let's do both of these. So now we've got... Oh, that changed everything. Woo! So maybe something that we can do is do a cool little fill right here. And whoa. Ooh, okay, so we've got 12 minutes left, and we could either go for some melodies, or we could go for, I don't know, we could go for that, or we could go for some vocal chops. Maybe what we can do is take that of just the bass line for a sec, and just maybe mute the drums. And now what I could go for are very like specific ethereal things. So if we take a listen to this and turn the sidechain off again, we've already got a melody, do, 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 right? So what we can do with this is try to utilize something to be able to, how do you say, create like cool and pretty melodies. So by combining something like beam and reverb and filters and stuff, then we can kind of repurpose some of that, I think, without trying to like busy it up too much. But I really like this because it's a cool way to just like get a vibe going and get something happening. And I think that this is what I needed because, man, I just was having a hard time. So anyways, let's go ahead and shoehorn this. And I feel much better about being able to apply these basses and like actually make something from them. I'm having a lot more fun now and actually liking what I'm making. So let's grab an instance of beam, and what we'll do is just kind of grab some of these things that like divine pulse or like anything like this that's going to change the pitch but in a way that's not going to break the key. So if I have something like an octave, or even if I do like a fifth, right, so like +7, then I'll get stuff that should in theory actually still work. And so now I'm going to have a little bit of intention with the sound design process and try to get things going. So which is really pretty. We can even combine something like that with Portal. And before I forget, I'm going to add another track here and pull this out, because there was some stuff in here that I really liked already. So set that to fifths. Set that here. Grab some reverb. So I'm going to cheat just a little bit. And I'm going to grab a pitch shifter and try to get some other stuff out of here very quickly. So, not that one. The kilohertz one is just a little bit more identifiable. Yeah, that's cool stuff. Let's grab a cluster delay and just play with some double taps here. A lot of this stuff is definitely applicable for intros and stuff at the very least. That's pretty cool. It sounds almost like grinding metal or something. So we can turn this back off. And again, as opposed to just deleting these, if I make a rack or something, then generally, because of Bitwig, you can kind of just deactivate stuff. But there was a couple of things that I heard in here that seemed kind of cool. So we can kind of solo some of this and just kind of fill that in for contrast. So, you know, even something very simple like that could go a long way. So let's get the drums back in here. Get the sidechain back on. It would be really cool to have like a cool little fill right there. So like a so something kind of like that, but so maybe like this. Oh, wrong place. So that doesn't fit right there, but I really like that phrase, so. So maybe something like right here to where we have that on the 1 and then pull that off. Do I use that again? So. So now that I hear stuff, like we can keep going with this because what I hear is da 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 da. So do, 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 do. Do, do, do. Mm-hmm. And now we can kind of just pan that off a little bit to the side. And even if it doesn't work, it's okay. Because we can kind of just utilize that. All right, sick. So what I'm also going to do right here is we're going to add a filter. And we're going to just keep this off until here. We'll turn that on and then we'll automate it on. So something like this. I just want it to be nasty, like. And then what we can do is maybe just have some kind of granular thing right here. Is this in read pitch? Yes, it is. So I'm going to hit Command B. We're just going to stretch this out to death. So I've got 20 seconds left, and the last thing that I'm going to do is automate this reverb on here as well to try to make this bigger. I might do a couple of things after, so the final version of this, I might add some vocals or whatever, but from the 2-hour challenge, you know, we did pretty good. Yeah, there we go, time's up. So I'm actually pretty happy with this. And I'm glad that I kind of pulled myself out of this rut, because now I've actually got something that I can work with, and I've found this workflow that is going to hopefully make me more unapologetic with using my basses and actually just like, you know what I mean? I love doing stuff with 808s, and I probably will do something like that too, but I've been really trying to figure out how to make this like dance together. And the key thing behind it is having one thing that's like pitchy effects, and then having one thing that is like different chops, but that's still in key. And I think that from beforehand I tried to combine them, and I don't think that worked for me very well. But something that did work really well is, instead of moving this stuff to the velocity, I was able to not have to go into this and try to change stuff within the piano roll. I was able to just do it from the play offset. So yeah, hopefully that was fun for you all, and this is the kind of stuff that I'm going to try to be doing in future videos. If you like my sounds, you can get this at alckemy.com. Sorry, you can get my sounds. If you like my sounds, you can get my preset packs at alckemy.com or book a lesson with me. But yeah, this turned out to be really cool. And I was over here bitching like Neuro is dead and Neuro is dead. And you know what? It probably is, but I enjoy making sounds like this, and I enjoy, even if it's cheesy, I don't care. I'm just trying to get it to move and get it to groove. So thanks everybody, I really appreciate it, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Should I finish this, or what, you know, Do you like this format? Please give me as much feedback as possible because I'm doing my best, and this is a really big change for me, and had a lot of anxiety trying to make something cool and come up with this workflow. Just as a personal thing, my views have tanked from like 80,000 views per month to like 30 from not streaming anymore. So I hate begging, but like, guys, like my video, please leave a comment, share some stuff. It'll help a lot. Anyways, thanks guys. I'll see you in the next one.